Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be back on our Candlemaker Day live. We are waiting for our next guest, Jacob from Sezzle, and super excited to actually talk to him. Sezzle is actually an organization that we work with that supports our buy now, pay later application on our website, and I'm sure Jacob's going to be talking a lot about Sezzle and what they have to offer and who they are as an organization. I'll give it a minute for everyone to kind of jump on, but I'll give Jacob the opportunity to explain what Sezzle does and what they do with Village, and kind of go further and beyond than just the typical services and the extension of our collaboration together, which actually goes a long way. So I'm just going to loop in Jacob right now. Give it a minute for it to connect. There he is. Hey, Jacob.
Hey, how's it going today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Happy Friday.
Good. Yeah, happy Friday. Happy Candlemaker Day. Thanks so much for joining.
Absolutely. Yeah, what a fun event.
Yeah, this is super exciting, and I was just letting everybody know before we had connected that, super pumped to talk about this because, I think as a consumer, everybody is somewhat familiar with, the increasing amount of buy now, pay later apps on a website. But I think it's kind of safe to say, and you can attest this, that, you guys in the buy now, pay later world don't really see much of like the B2B wholesale side of things that, we're bringing to the table. And I think with the extension of not only your services, but the collaboration we have going on together is really exciting, right? And I think that's what we want to really explain more about. And, we're a huge fan of Sezzle at Village. We feel that it's a very intuitive tool to use. But why don't you go ahead and kind of explain to everybody who Sezzle is for those that may not be familiar with you guys and what you guys are all about, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, of course. Sounds good. Well, thanks again for having us on. It's been an awesome partnership since we started. Gosh, I think it's almost been a year now that we've been working together.
Yep.
But for those of you that aren't familiar with Sezzle, we're a buy now, pay later company. What that is it's kind of this new realm financing, a different way for consumers and business owners to pay for things over time. But we don't charge interest. We don't do credit checks. And we don't report to collections. So it's it's a very friendly payment type as opposed to like traditional financing and traditional credit, where you could be looking at upwards of like 29 to 39% APR sometimes. But what it has done for a lot of small business organizations, as Roger mentioned, is it allows people to kind of extend their capital and get the products and the supplies that they need in order to continue running their business. But they don't have to front all of that cost up front. And so it's really stretching capital. They're able to do more things at once and then repay that over a period of time. And we're super flexible in our repayment terms, of course. But in the gist of things, that's what we do and help people stretch their capital on hand.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And in addition to kind of the services you provide directly, why don't you give everybody a little bit more of a background as to who Sezzle is as an organization? Yeah. And I know we've talked many times, but you guys are a certified B Corp, and for those that may not be aware of what that is, and why don't you kind of go a little bit around that? Because I think there's such a level of importance that, connects to the support you guys have for businesses like ourselves and other entrepreneurs that support our community. And I think there'd be a great story behind that.
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit about us. We're a Minneapolis-based company. We've been out of the Twin Cities, if anybody's familiar, for about the last 6 years now. And then we have an office up in Toronto, Ontario, for our Canadian operations. We've been there for about 4 years. So we work cross-border. But originally, we actually, funny story is Sezzle started as a rewards program for debit consumers. So similar to how you get points with a credit card. Wasn't a super... we didn't see exactly what we were looking for, and we transitioned in this buy now, pay later model. And kind of started really with a segment of consumers in the US that were underserved by the traditional financial market. And by that, I mean, if you're not familiar, I don't know how many people here are here from Canada or the US, but in the US, you can't get a credit card until you're 21 without a cosigner. Student loan debt is a lot higher in the US than it is in Canada. And there are a lot of people, we call them credit invisible. It's not to say they're bad consumers or that they don't have an income.
Yeah.
but they're not able to get approved for traditional means of credit like a lot of us
Right.
are, especially when you're further along in a career. And then when we came up to Canada, we found credit card usage is a lot higher, but more consumers are looking to get away from using traditional credit. And so they turn to solutions like us. But then, yeah, as Roger mentioned, we're a certified B Corp. So a lot of what we do, aside from, I'll back it up a little bit. A lot of people think financing, they think predatory. You know, we're going to send you the collections. We're going to ruin your credit. You're going to get awful terms.
Right.
And we're not about that. We look at ourselves as credit on training wheels. And so we went through the B Corporation certification process, and that, you know, by our bylaws and how we operate, we have to put profit and purpose on the same playing field.
Right.
But we didn't do that because we felt like we had to. We did it because we wanted to. And so we're looking to financially empower consumers, you know, scholarships in the US and Canada for first-time university attendees, planting trees for new users, climate neutral. We ran during COVID, we ran a small business COVID relief fund in partnership with a company out of Calgary called Local Laundry, where we donated all of the proceeds to this small COVID business relief fund.
Right.
So all sorts of things like that, which I think pairs very, very well with your guys' organization and what you do from a charitable perspective and what we're looking to do. So all facets of the organization, we're operating in that regard and just trying to help out where we can.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And again, I'll provide extra support for you guys in that end. And, you know, when we at Village were kind of deciding as to, you know, implementing a buy now, pay later, it came from, you know, a couple of different prongs in the approach we had. One was obviously providing our customers with the right cash management tools that they can have. You know, we understand our customers, for the most part, are business owners, entrepreneurs that are looking to grow their product line, grow their market base. And we get it. We understand that, you know, everybody, for the most part, typically bootstraps their businesses, may have a little bit more of a difficult time obtaining certain capital to help you, you know, stretch out with respects to production and designing a product line. So tools like a Sezzle, what they offer is so critical for a business owner because it elongates that payment requirement and it breaks it up into more palatable sizes, if you will. The other option, or part of me, the other reason why we had, you know, kind of went down your path as well is because, like you mentioned, you know, we have this social responsibility on our end as well, where we're very charitable. We work with organizations, you know, specifically Nanny Angel that we do a lot of work with, and of which you guys had also combined and participated with us on many occasions. But it was your willingness to give back to the small business community. You know, it was the company as a whole, very community driven, and understood the importance of supporting small businesses, you know, whether it's in Canada or in the US, and understanding that, you know, our entire economy is heavily built on the backs of small businesses, and continuing to help them grow with all the tools that they need necessary, and as well as to make it as intuitive and as simple as possible for us to use, which is extremely important. I will open up, you know, this is an opportunity for people to ask questions throughout the live. You know, we'll get to as many as we can. Hopefully we get to all of them. But this is an opportunity for, if you have any questions, you know, for Jacob or myself with respects to, you know, Sezzle and Village, or just your business with respects to a buy now, pay later, or the entire concept of this whole structure, you know, feel free and fire away. So Jacob, I'm going to start off with kind of asking you a question. So from a merchant's perspective, again, reiterate the fact that, you know, customers of ours obviously have their own online stores. They may have other platforms that they sell their products on. How can one determine that they're a suitable merchant to implement a buy now, pay later for themselves and for their?
Yes, good question. So I think it starts, and where I'd like to start here is there are many flavors of buy now, pay later. There are a lot of different options out there, and all of them operate a little bit differently. So where I would first start is when someone talks about buy now, pay later, and what we're talking specifically about today that Sezzle does, is we do 4 payments over 6 weeks. So it's very, very short term in comparison to like a traditional financer. And a lot of the times where we find we're a good fit, just because of like our approval model, how we make money, how we don't, charge interest, we have to mitigate our risk somehow. But where we see the best results is anything from $0 to about $1,000 basket size on this pay in 4 model in particular. One, we just typically don't approve shoppers or customers or purchases over that threshold because of the risk that we assume as a business. But on the other end of that is we don't
Right.
typically see customers looking to spread their payments out in such a short period of time. You know, at that threshold, if you're looking to spend $2,000, $500 every 2 weeks for a non-business owner is still a lot of money. The
Right.
other end of that is those monthly, long-term, interest-bearing products that allow like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in some cases. And there are, especially when you're buying like a large load of supplies, especially like, you know, you guys use Split It for a lot of those transactions as well.
Right.
That's kind of where it falls in line. But then as well as a lot of the different buy now, pay later vendors out there, payments tend to be very based on geography, regional specific. You know, if you go to Australia or Europe, you're going to find different payment methods than you would in the US and Canada.
Right.
So if you're selling to those regions, it's important to figure out a partner that facilitates those transactions as well, that's established in that region. Customers know them, especially when you're talking financing. Trust is so super important.
Yep.
So from like a business owner perspective, if you're looking to implement Sezzle, those are kind of the things to keep in mind. Everybody has a different process. We tend to be very simple in ours. You know, it's a 10-minute sign up. Depending on the platform you're on, integration is very quick and simple. Or it could be longer if it's a more custom platform. But at the end of the day, you know, we're happy to have those conversations. A lot of people in this space know a lot of the other people at the other organizations, and everyone tends to operate in good faith, where if we're not a fit for you, you know, odds are we're not going to want to work together. We don't, for those that aren't aware, the way Sezzle makes money is we take a per transactional processing fee on Sezzle orders. So if nobody's using us, you're typically not paying anything.
Right.
So we're happy to make introductions to a lot of partners that might fit your needs, because it's not a great look for anybody if it's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And you know, kind of moving it towards, you know, the experiential side of things. So being a merchant ourselves and not having a buy now, pay later prior to implementing Sezzle, you know, we noticed that there was a UX aspect of it on our website with regards to offering that other level of, we'll call it financing for lack of terms, but really more of a cash management tool. Find that merchants should really consider implementing a buy now, pay later as soon as possible to help the experience of their customers, preferably on their website as well.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I kind of lost you for a second there.
Do you think that like merchants should really consider implementing a buy now, pay later platform sooner than later for their own customers' experience, or should they wait it out to understand what that buying behavior is to begin with before they implement something that may overwhelm the experience, if you will?
Got it. Yeah, no, I think sooner rather than later. Of course, I might sound biased when I say that. It's a great idea. The reason being is over the last couple of years, we've really seen the conversation shift from what is buy now, pay later? How do they make money? I've never heard of this before. Why would anybody use this?
Right.
So now there's this whole segment of consumers that are actively looking for where they can use buy now, pay later more as a preferred payment type rather than a financing tool. And so if you're running a small business and you're looking to acquire new users and new customers, there's this growing segment of millennial and Gen Z consumers in particular that are looking for where else they can use us. You know, for example, if you go onto like a store directory for Klarna, Afterpay, Sezzle, QuadPay, PayBright, you name it, there's a million of them out there.
Right.
You'll find all these different organizations that are offering that specific buy now, pay later solution. There are segments of consumers that are buy now, pay later agnostic. They'll use whatever's available, but there is customer loyalty when we look at these buy now, pay later companies and the customers that are using them. And so a lot of us don't require any sort of contractual agreement to work together. You can try things out. You can take them down if it's not working and try something else, or try multiple at the same time. It's kind of like a Visa MasterCard-esque situation we're seeing develop, especially in the US, and kind of continuing that trend in Canada is what we're seeing. And so if it's, you know, especially if you're on something like Shopify or WooCommerce or Lightspeed and it takes 10 minutes to install, it's usually just as quick to take down. So
Yeah.
what's the harm in trying it out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an important aspect to highlight is, you know, when a merchant is looking at trying to optimize their store and, you know, they may be overwhelmed with what's available. I think the concern with making a quote unquote commitment to something, you know, as significant as offering their own customers financing model could be a little overwhelming. But I think, you know, the ability you guys have, this simple kind of turn on, flip of the switch, turnkey consideration, and then there's really no commitment, and it can be turned off if it's not suitable. I think which is what makes it actually quite appealing to a lot of merchants, right? Kind of flipping gears here. So Sezzle's kind of been focused predominantly on that, B2C kind of approach. I'm buying running shoes, I'm buying a sweater, a payroll, or something from the, a consumer perspective. At Village, we're obviously built around supporting, business owners that are presumably monetizing their efforts, with the purchasing of our supplies. But then the flip side of it is that our customers then become a merchant selling a consumable-based product, right? So is there anything that you've noticed in the last year or so that has worked well from the wholesale B2B side that could be transferable on the B2C side, or even vice versa, that our customers can really take advantage of?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of where the business started, of course, is that direct-to-consumer aspect, as you mentioned. We make money on a per transactional basis. Consumers usually transact a lot more frequently with us than a business would. But like you said previously, when a business uses something like Sezzle, it's a lot more of a cash management tool, especially when debt is hard to come by at a favorable term, for lack of a better word, at the moment. Some of the things we found to be transferable is just offering a buy now, pay later solution at its core is showing your customers that you trust them. You're anticipating them paying that company back. You're able to get the things you need, and it's this dichotomy that goes on back and forth where you're offering them something they weren't getting somewhere else. From the flip side of the experience, the consumer can go and manage all of those payments with us autonomously. They don't need to call us. They don't need to email us. They generate their own account. They can go in and change payment methods if they need to, request extensions for free if they need to, and facilitate it that way. Especially when it comes to finances, it can be a little bit of a lot of people like to keep their finances private. They don't want to talk to someone that they don't know in order to manage those things. From an actual implementation standpoint, a lot of the success that we see, both from the B2B side of things as well as the direct-to-consumer side of things, is if you're offering Sezzle in something like abandoned cart email campaigns. Look at Sezzle and buy now, pay later as a whole as a customer acquisition tool. You're going to be attracting people from both ends of the spectrum that might not have transacted with you before. At the end of the day, it's cash management, whether it's for a consumer or a business. If you're a business, you can buy all the supplies you need from Village Craft and Candle to operate your own, manage your cash that way, and put the extra capital on hand somewhere else it needs to go. And the same thing for consumers. If someone wants to go and buy groceries with Sezzle, then they can focus on fixing their tire. Excuse me, I'll flip that around. If someone wants to go and buy new tires for their car, that's a big transaction sometimes. They can use Sezzle, use the remaining 3 payments to focus on putting food on the table or getting gas for the car to drop their kids off at school.
Right.
And so it's a similar conversation for different use cases. Abandoned cart email campaigns work great if someone looks at a total basket and realizes they can't afford $200 or $1,000 in one purchase, and they abandon that cart. That business or can send it out either to their business customers or their direct to consumer customers and say, hey, did you know you can use Sezzle? Break up that payment over time. Customer comes back, they get what they needed, business gets what they needed, and everybody walks away happy.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, as I was going to shift towards that a little bit, talk about the abandoned cart, and even just with respects to enticing a customer to maybe spend more and having merchants increase their overall average order value. I think the tool offers a simplistic way to say you could spend more without kind of hurting the bank today, right? And I think the intention for all obviously buy now, pay laters. The difference is, though, is that we're doing it, supporting businesses, so it stretches even further, right? Not starts a company off with a bunch of credit or a heavily loaded credit card that they can go on and spend with. I think tools like this make it easy, and for the most part, specifically ones that have started a side hustle, if you will, in conjunction with their regular job, the pay structure, or the payment back structure, if you will, coincides with someone's pay, quite nicely. So they have that opportunity, excuse me, to kind of make that, very efficient. But again, going back to, the merchants implementing a buy now, pay later, is there anything Sezzle can offer to their customers that can help their customers realize to spend a little bit more or add more to their basket, if you will? Because, we're in a time right now where people or holiday season, there's a lot of options out there with respects to, finished home goods and whatnot. I feel like tools like a Sezzle could easily entice a customer to add more stuff to their basket, to potentially spend a little more at that point of purchase and not really get off someone's site. They may add 3 candles versus just going for 1 because they realize the opportunity to utilize Sezzle can stretch out those payments. So is there anything Sezzle's got loaded in terms of, products or features that you could speak about that can help entice some of that market reach?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to these buy now, pay later solutions. It's why would someone use this on a $20 purchase? But exactly as you said, if someone sees it's available on that product, they're more likely to add to their already existing cart because it's only an additional $5 every 2 weeks, right? To further that conversation, a lot of businesses have implemented free shipping thresholds. And so if you're offering that and the consumer is not comfortable, spending $100 on the site out of the gate, if you're offering a buy now, pay later solution, they might be a little more inclined to get to that point. On the flip side, and kind of circling back to what I mentioned before, is we're not out here to make money on defaulted payments and consumers that can't pay us back. We actually assume that loss.
Right.
And so if a customer ends up over their head, we actually turn off that account until they do pay us back. So they're not able to get into, deeper into that hole that they might have found themselves in.
Right.
From a business perspective, if someone's spending a lot more, they're hitting those free shipping thresholds, they're adding more items to their cart. Rather than coming back and purchasing every single month to get what they need, maybe they'll purchase 3 months worth of product in one go, or 3 months worth of inventory in one go. And then you're saving money on your shipping costs because then you don't have to send 3 different orders at that free shipping threshold, but it's one order, you hit the free shipping threshold, and you're saving money from a business aspect as well.
Yeah, and I think that's an important component that, we as all merchants kind of miss sometimes, that we only focus on our products, but there's got to be an equal amount of focus on the delivery of that product, right? And we're relying on third-party carriers for the most part that are doing all that legwork for us, but there's a cost component to that. And the implications is that if customers or consumers don't happen to kind of buy everything they need at once, then they themselves are inheriting the risk of spending 2 or 3 times more on shipping than they really needed to. That is important to understand, not just kind of quasi-financing your products, but it's mitigating the risk of spending more on your shipping that could be a burden at times, right? Because we are zero control on what those shipping costs are. And for those of you that have experienced, a lot of our grand carriers in Canada and even in the US, like when times can get tough with respects to short drivers or depots are getting backlogged, it's very exhausting and difficult when you got to do 2 or 3 different orders over a span of time, as opposed to just doing one and just getting it within a reasonable amount of time. So no, it's a good point. So we recently launched our partners page on our website, and for those of you that are not aware, it's an all-encompassing partners page that will continue to grow, but it focuses on all aspects of business ownership that helps you kind of fill the gaps in areas that you may not necessarily have at the moment, that we could help you with by providing a discount to utilize the service. Sezzle is obviously up there. You can use our village code and our link to get in there and set up your own account for your own store. Jacob, how can they find Sezzle on social, website? How can they find you guys to learn more about you guys other than the village website?
Yeah, so Sezzle.com is a great place to go. We've got a partners page as well, FAQ pages, you name it. We have a mobile app, super convenient from a consumer perspective as well if you're just looking to get involved. The sign-up process is super simple. We don't take any sort of like social insurance number or social security number. There's no impact to credit, of course, just to create an account and look around. They can also contact us directly. We have 24/7 support, mobile, email, chat, phone, you name it, based out of Minneapolis, both English and French, if there are any French speakers here as well. So we're an open book. Really, anything you need, contact us. We're usually pretty quick to get back to you. And if there's any questions from a consumer side or a business side, I'm happy to help. As well as feel free to email me, jacob.springer@sezzle.com. If I can't help you, I can probably get you in touch with someone that can.
Fantastic, Jacob. I really appreciate it. And again, this is an important topic for merchants. It's an important topic for consumers. I really appreciate you kind of coming out and spending the time with us. And, it's a day that we really highlight the maker and the dedication they're putting towards their businesses. And, you know, the commitment they're having to kind of scale it. You know, we as a company are trying our best to create this end-to-end kind of ecosystem of products and tools that business owners take advantage of to just mitigate that headache of running your business, right? And focusing on, you know, the core service that you have, and crafting and creating and growing in the right areas. So again, appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming out. Again, Sezzle's link is on our website, on our partners page. Should you need to connect with them directly, if you would like to open up an account with them for your own store, you do get a discount through our code at Village. And you can hit up Jacob for any personal questions, or ourselves. And then, yeah, we'll go from there, man. Thanks again for really joining us, and we really appreciate you. Thanks.
Yeah,
Everyone.
thanks for having me. It's been a fun time. Again, sorry if there's background noise. I've got the window open. It's a nice day here. So
No worries.
thanks everybody. Have a good one. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend.